Thanks, everybody. It's great to be here. Just a few words about what 6Sight is, because it's a little bit of a different beast, if you will, than what you may be used to in this space, where we've had conferences and trade shows. But 6Sight is a different kind of event. Let me just ask, just to start with, a question. How many of you have seen the recent release about Yahoo becoming the largest, the website that hosts the most images on the web in the world? A few, but anyway, that is the case. 2 years ago, we were struck by the fact that Nokia had reached a point where they were selling more cameras inside their phones than the combined total of all the camera manufacturers put together. And what that means is imaging is changing. And the way that we see the change is that in the 21st century, imaging isn't going to be something that people do on special occasions. It is going to be a part of the way that we communicate with each other at every level on a routine, everyday basis. In other words, imaging is going to become part of language. It's what we call the transition from describing to displaying. Whenever we want to communicate something to each other that actually exists in the physical world and can be captured in images, there is going to be no reason why we can't just incorporate that into our communications rather than attempting to describe it with language. Now, if you think about that phenomenon, which of course is unfolding, but we're seeing the first milestones of it, if you think about that phenomenon, what becomes clear is that it's going to profoundly change the way we operate as societies, and as a result, it's also going to profoundly change the landscape for companies who are participating in this business, both from an opportunity standpoint and a challenge standpoint. And some of these sort of sea changes we've already seen. We've seen the scale of the imaging industry expand dramatically, both because of things like embedded devices. I was quoting you that Nokia data point a little while ago, and that's only one among many, and also because of geography. One of the things that we've seen is imaging becoming an application and a market in countries that previously never were part of the photo or video markets because there simply wasn't enough disposable income there for people to get involved. Now, if you look at China, if you look at India, if you look at South America, people are actively doing imaging because it's become part of their communications process. Another change is in the number and variety of applications that imaging is being put to. You know, things from anywhere from online auctions to geographic information, video conferencing, you name it. So the market is vastly diversified. And those are only some of the beginnings, some of the early changes that we're seeing. There are going to be many, many more. So how does 6Sight fit into all of this? A couple of data points first. 6Sight LLC is a joint venture between PMA, Future Image, which is the company that I founded a dozen years ago, which has been sort of researching the future of the imaging industry, and the Association of Imaging Industry Executives. So those are the three parties that are involved in putting on the event. Second point that's very important, it takes place in the US, in Monterey, California, but it is not a US-focused event. It is a worldwide focused event. The kinds of trends that I'm talking about are global trends. We draw attendees and sponsors from Europe, from Asia, and from the US. Third thing is, it's a high-end event. And that means that who we attract there are key decision makers, such as these. It's not in a hotel ballroom. It's in an amphitheater at the Monterey Conference Center where TED is held. And the reason actually why this slide is up here more seriously is that to give you just an example of the kind of tone that we have, our networking reception is held at the Monterey Bay Aquarium. We rent out the majority of the aquarium and hold our networking reception there. So, that said, a little bit about this year's program. 2 keynotes, one that is more technology-oriented by Bill Lloyd, and one that is more sort of business models and applications-oriented by Guy Kawasaki. For those of you who are not all that familiar with Bill. Bill was Chief Technology Officer at HP for many years, then went off to head up the ill-fated joint venture between HP and Kodak that was Photogenics, and now is the Chief Technology Officer at Kodak, and is driving a lot of the development in the areas that we're talking about: networked imaging, intelligent imaging, all of those kinds of high-level sort of intersections of imaging with computing and telecommunications that are really going to change the way that we live. Guy Kawasaki, for those of you not familiar with him, sort of legendary Macintosh evangelist, and now a venture capitalist, and also a very technology, of course, venture capitalist, and a very successful author of numerous books about marketing of high technology and creating new markets around high technology. A couple of other things that we're going to be talking about. This, by the way, is the Monterey Conference Center. We're going to be, of course, talking about where some of the key product categories are headed: cameras, camera phones, printers. But we're also going to be talking about some things that are a little bit more exotic. We're going to be talking about developments in miniaturization and embedding of cameras, how cameras essentially are going to pervade all of the appliances that we use, from cars to refrigerators. We're going to be talking about things like living room imaging, where with the penetration of high-definition televisions, local area networks, and high-speed internet connections, the television in the living room becomes a focal point not just for viewing images in groups of people, but also for interactions that take place over distance, taking advantage of the high-speed internet access. We're going to be talking about things like geoimaging, the intersection of infrastructures like Google Earth with mapping technologies and coordination annotation on image capture devices, and how that all creates sort of an encyclopedic world of geographically intelligent images. And we're going to be showing in our technology showcases a number of really exciting new technologies. I don't know whether you've seen it, but there is a press release out there next to our little brochure that discusses some of the things that we're going to be showing, like super wide field of view image capture, ultra high resolution image capture, new technologies for building photo books on the fly, things like that. So I don't want to take up too much time because I know my colleagues have a lot to get to, but I'm here to answer any questions that you might have about the event, and both Tom and Gary are here to assist you with any questions that you might have about the logistics of attendance, and we very much hope that we'll see you in Monterey. Once again, the opportunity there is to see the hot technologies that are going to shape where the industry is going, and to have privileged access to the key decision makers that are actually making it happen. Thanks very much for your time.